Jump in. Phones are coming under strict scrutiny for this school year for both students and teachers. House Bill 208 now requires school boards to adopt a policy banning them during instructional time in an effort to reduce distractions. Exceptions are made for an emergency or for some instructional purpose. Senate Bill 181 also sets a new communications policy for teachers, requiring messages sent through a traceable platform and banning texting unless a parent submits written consent.
Any communications can be accessed by parents so they know what's being discussed in those conversations.
And that bill, Senate Bill 181, brought by Senator Lindsey Tishner. Fayette County Schools announced it's adopting the all-in-one communications platform Parent Square for its families to use. Online petitions have emerged to amend that bill to address unintended consequences like calling or texting students in an emergency. Representative Watkins, I want to start the conversation with you here. Schools already come back in Jefferson County, as far as I'm aware. Have you heard any sort of early messaging from parents just about either of these two particular pieces of legislation as we're going to the new year?
Quite a bit. So before I begin, I'd like to say, happy first and now second day of school for a lot of Kentuckians and their families and students. And I've received a lot of communication about it. I'm certain Representative Bray has as well. Mixed reviews across the board, but I will say particularly keeping cell phone usage down in instruction time. I think a lot of parents want that. A lot of teachers want that. I like the exemptions, and I've been hearing mixed reviews on the exemptions, and there seems to be some room for negotiation and what that looks like. What I've heard the most about is probably the platforms that districts are adopting for communication with other students. And what I did not hear a lot about during the session that I'm hearing about now are the different makeups of families and how you need to be in contact with different people. All families aren't made up of the same, so sometimes folks can have aunts and uncles. I'm an uncle dad, I like to call myself, that have a lot of communication with students and whatnot. And I don't think we thought a lot about that. We didn't hear a lot about that during the session, how different family members would be communicated with. And that's something a little bit different. We're seeing a lot of emails about that. So I'm hoping moving forward, we'll try to adjust some of the things as we learn more. Yeah,
181 wasn't a bill that got a lot of attention whenever it was going through the process during session. Let's bring you in here, Representative Bray. You were the architect behind House Bill 208, the bill that is now banning phones in the classroom. What's some of the feedback that you're hearing?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's common sense policy, right? We've seen test scores go down. We've seen literacy rates go down. Distractions go up, discipline problems go up, anxiety, depression, a lot of issues with kids, and a lot of it's tied to cell phone usage. I had a teacher from out of district contact me like, hey, can you all give us some support on this? Like it's my #1 issue in the classroom. So I filed that bill a couple years ago. We got it across the finish line this past session. It was probably the first and only time the KEA, the Kentucky Family Foundation, were on the same page on a bill. And, it's common sense. We've got to make sure kids aren't on TikTok in the middle of class. The feedback I've heard from teachers, they're really, really supportive of it because, they want to do a good job. They want to teach. And anything we can do to help get those distractions out of the classroom, that's a step in the right direction.
What do you think is it that pushed that bill over the finish line this year? As you mentioned, you've filed it before in previous sessions. What was the push that really put a lot of folks behind it?
I mean, so last session, the time it didn't get passed, it just ran out of time. It was in a budget year. There was a lot going on with that. It's just common sense. Everybody was comfortable with it. We put together a good set of exemptions. We put a lot of flexibility in for districts so that they could go as far as they wanted. We put in exemptions to make parents comfortable in case of emergency or something like that for educational purposes. So it had the right amount of flexibility in it, and people ultimately got comfortable with it.
Now, to the point that Representative Watkins brought up about some of the different platforms that are being used for the other bill on communications between students and teachers, curious if you have any thoughts on that and how you may be taking an approach towards any possible amendment.
Yeah, I mean, that bill, Senate Bill 181, passed without a single no vote. It makes perfect sense, right? We want to make sure that parents are fully aware of any kind of communication that's going on between teachers and their kids through cell phones. But the devil's always in the details. And because of a lot of family structures, a lot of sports instances, we've seen a lot of issues pop up around it. I would say there'll probably be several bills filed to kind of amend that going forward. Some of the stuff I've heard is teachers who may have a relationship with kids outside of the classroom, whether it's through church or through sports or whatever. The kids may be calling them, and they're not super comfortable with that because of the way the bill's structured. So I think you'll see some amendments may be filed to that going forward to create a good balance, because the intent of the bill is pure. I mean, we want to make sure that kids aren't being subjected to inappropriate relationships, and it's just the devil's always in the detail in how you do that.
We've heard that term cleanup bill many times in Frankfort. Just a couple seconds here very quickly, since we're on the conversation around tech, any other areas as it relates to tech in schools that you think the General Assembly could address in this next session?
So I'm chair of the Artificial Intelligence Task Force. One of the 3 issues we're focusing on is education and how artificial intelligence is used in the classroom and what that means for our students going forward. So I would say there'll probably be some policy around that.
Any more you want to add to that?
I'm actually looking forward to that conversation. I think we need to be prepared for the over-reliance on artificial education, and there's some cons to that. Artificial intelligence in education, but I think there's also some positives that we could use too. So I'm interested to see what we do in January.
I think a lot of people are looking to see what happens.